Good afternoon. My name is Brenda, and the dog that just said hi is Carrie. That's my little corgi. I'm going to do another one of my cut and sews. I have done this one before, but this is a different pattern on this. So this is one that I call the hipster snap-on bag. And it will come with everything you need for the bag and the liner, as well as the flap. And I even have a little extra piece that you're going to hem and cut out, and so there's two of them, so that you'll have one snap on one side of the bag and one snap at the other side. The hipster bag is, again, this little picture here shows a hipster bag, and there's a snap over here and a snap over here, and you can snap them onto your belt loops on your jeans, or you could snap them onto a carrier. You can snap them on anything, your backpack. It just makes it really easy. You could put a button in there. I usually just do Velcro with a button on the front just to make it look nice, and it weighs that little flap down. Like I said, the instructions is always going to be printed on the fabric, but I can only get so much instructions on a fat quarter. I have to get not only the whole project, but the instructions, and they're basic instructions for people who are intermediate to advanced sewers. This is really pretty simple. I do have this little cutout in the corners when I show you how to do that. I call it like a box corner, but I think it's called something else among the professionals when they're sewing. And it just makes this more fuller in the bottom of the bag, so you can get more stuff in it. So it's not like an envelope that's just flat all the way. It will give it some area in the bottom, and it's done on the liner and the top. So this is the pattern, or what you would call the print of the bag. It has a really cute little fox and some birds and some botanicals. It's a little deer. And your liner was made to match exactly the same colors, but it's a solid with a slight print in it. This little part, you'll always know the bottom too, because it'll be this area down here by the notches, and this will be the top. And then these are the flaps. So the flap, now you can do two ways. You can have the print part on the outside, or you could have the solid part on the outside. So you want to be sure and decide what you want for that flap when it's hanging down over the print side. Like this is what it would look like if you had the print side out and then you had a solid for the outside. Or you'll have the print side out and then you want the solid on the print, like that. So you can decide that, and you could change that around. You could change it around that even the liner, you could make, half of this have the front with the print, and the back of it could be this. So you can decide that. That makes it more fun. You can switch them out and do as you please. Another good thing about my little cut and sew projects is that even though you buy one already with the print on it, on one fat quarter from my Spoonflower shop, if you wanted to use this as a template to make your own bags, you can. However, if you're using commercial bought fabrics, which are cheaper, you can get them on sale sometimes and they're cheaper. Spoonflower does have some great sales sometimes, and sign up for that list. That's what I do when I want to buy a lot of fat quarters from myself, of my own stuff. I still have to pay money, so I will wait for a sale to save money and get some of that shipping cost back. Well, as I said, is that if you want to make more of your own and using regular fabrics, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. The only advantage is when you buy one of my custom prints, nobody else sells them, nowhere. So you can only, so if you were to do a bunch of these, say you bought 5 of my cut and sew projects, and you make those, and you can take them to a craft show and sell them, and you can tell them that's a designer original. It's straight from the designer. It's not sold in any of your regular big stores. So none of the fabric stores has my designs except for Spoonflower at this time. And that gives you the advantage. So if someone is walking around and they want to make little bags too, but they're not going to find this particular pattern, you will find it in other patterns. which is, you know, going to be cheaper for them to make. You do get that special uniqueness though by buying one of mine that are already custom made for these projects. So with that being said, I will start with the first thing, and that is to go along with my little things that I've got here. I'll go with just number 1, and it says that you're going to cut out on the solid black lines. So wherever the solid black lines are, I usually is kind of a cutting edge. That's where you're going to cut it. Even the one down the center is where you're going to cut. This one here shows you that you cut on the solid line, and then that dotted line is the seam allowance. I don't always do it with a different color. Sometimes just the same color. So when you cut out all the pieces, which I've already done, and you're going to sew A to B sides. That means the front and the back. So I'll take the front and the back, and I'm going to sew those together, right sides together, and do not cut into the box cut. So the sides would be, oops, excuse me, just down the side, right sides together. Don't cut into this part here. You'll do the same on the other side, and then you either do the outside body first and then do the inside. For right now, that's all we're going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the sewing machine, and I will do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've done both the front pieces, put them together, and I also did the number 3 where it says to do the repeat and do it for the lining too. That's sewing the sides and sewing the bottom, but not sewing the corners. So this is my liner, and this one is my outside, which is the print piece, and they're both sewed there. Now this is how I do this little pleat, this extra little thing here. You've got it flat on both sides, and you're going to take your fingers, insert where you have not sewn it up, that little square thing. That's why I call it a box pleat, but I know that's not what they're supposed to be called. And I have now, you can see here's the opening, and it's like a little mouth now. So let me show you that again. I put my fingers inside, I squeeze it out the opposite way so that the 2 seams, you'll see the seam there, line up. You'll see that those 2 line up, and now I have a flat way this way. Looks kind of like a T. And now I'm going to go sew this. I usually put one hem the one direction, one hem the other direction, and I'm going to sew straight across there. I do about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, depending on what I'm doing. Whatever works best for you. I do it small so that I can have more room in these little bags. But then I'm going to go straight across. And sometimes if one of them looks like it's a little wonky up in the top, it's not going to matter, because you're going to go straight across, and then you're going to trim that top part off. So I will do this real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. Sorry you can't see my machine, but you know what it looks like when they're sewing. I have learned a neat little tip that I don't know. I think I've mentioned it 1 or 2 other times, but if you hold your back threads, you don't ever have that problem of them. You shouldn't have that problem of it balling up underneath, and then you get stuck there. And sometimes, if you want to make this good, if you want to make this, hardy, like a good little bag, go back and forth a couple times over those corners, because that's a stress point. And you want this to last a long time. So now this is how it looks. You can see that I've got this corner. So here's the bag, and now it's made it wide. You see how wide that's made the bottom of the bag now? That gives you that extra room inside. And I will trim this back a little bit. And I'm going to do this on all the other corners for the front and the back pieces. And finish that up and trim it up. And then I'll show you the next step. Okay, I went ahead and finished both the inside, the liner, and the outside. And I did the little box squares so that you can see it plain here. I've turned them inside out. I do want to show you what happens if you don't put in enough of a hem. You can choose your own hems, but on some of these I did give a guiding line for real beginners to sew by, and if you don't get enough of a hem, you will have some of those stitchlet things showing right there. So you need, so in this I should have done a little bit more. The bottom was fine, but the sides show a little bit. On this one it's not as noticeable, but there was a little bit of the stitching line showing because I didn't put quite enough of a stitch line. And I don't always do that. Most of the time I don't have this. I don't have a stitch line. That way you'll never have to worry about this. And I may go on and see if I can correct that online and make it so there's not there. It's just that when you're a very beginner, it does help you to know where to sew. And that you just want to make sure then that you have those matched up correctly when you're stitching this inside. And usually you can see through the fabric a little bit to see if you're getting there. You can see the stitch line right there, and you can see I just came on the other side of it a little bit, so it needed to be on this side of it just a little bit. But that's a simple thing to do and to watch out for. Now it tells me on the instructions that we're to do the tab holders, and this is what this little tab holder is. And I have just ironed this in the center, and then I ironed it in the center, and then I ironed it this way, and then I will put those two sides together. I'm then going to go ahead and go right down the side that's folded. And for extra sturdiness, I go ahead and go around the whole thing, and then you're going to cut it like this, right on that little line there. So you have two of them, and that's going to be your tab holders for two of your snaps. And I will do that next. Okay, I've got two of these that are done. You can see. Then you take one of your snaps. I buy these off of Amazon. You get a whole bunch of them. 3 different colors. You can get this bronze, a silver. I can't think what the other one was, a darker color, I think. But anyway, I just slide this through. Your 2 raw edges then will be at the top. Your raw edges are going to be up here. And this is the reason why you don't have to really sew the raw edges, because they're going to be sewn in between the seam on both sides of your snap-on bag. So I'm just going to set this aside and see what it says for me to do next. That was number 7. We just did stitch down the center and cut in half. So I've done that. Number 8 says to attach clips to the tabs and print out extra instructions. That's probably talking about the flap area. What we're going to do with the flap area now is we're going to put right sides together, because it has to be turned inside out. And I'm going to sew everything but this top area. That has to be left open so we can turn it inside out. So we're going to go sew down to the tip, over to here and up. And if you don't want that really pointy, you can cut it straight across. You can curve it however you want that tip to look like when you turn it inside out. And I'll do that next. Okay, I've finished my little topper. This is the flap. I've got my 2 bags together. Now this is where the layering can be tricky, and sometimes I do it wrong, not paying attention or something. I get it backwards, being dyslexic. Anyway, right now, if you look at my bag, this is the wrong side of the outer part. And I mean the lining. That's part of that back of the lining. And you look inside, I have the 2 pieces facing each other. So we have the printed outside part and the non-printed liner facing each other. So your bag is inside the bag, so it looks like this. And in this layering process, we're also going to put this flap. Now I'm trying something new. I just got these in the mail and I've never done them before, but they're magnetic clasps. And here's one piece, and you see that little prongs? This goes through the fabric. You have this little piece here that you would put on after it goes through the fabric, and then you fold those prongs down, and that's what I've done here. So this is in the lining, because I'm going to have the lining of the flap on the inside instead of on the outside. So I put it here so that when it flaps down over, it's going to go like this, you know, over the fabric. But first, before I put it on the other side, I want to make sure that I get this attached to the bag. So we have the bag, and I'm going to open it up. You have the inside and the outside, but this flap has to go down inside it to do this magical thing where it all works out. So I have to put, if I want this part to be on the outside of my bag, which I do, I don't want this part on the outside of the bag. So this nose down, and this is the raw edges at the top of my flap, and here's the raw edges of my bag and the liner. So I open my bag up, and I'm going to put the print side facing the print side down in the bag. You can see I'm putting it in here, and I'll show you how many layers you got here. It's not that hard. Sometimes it just you get mixed up of which goes where. So we have this right now is showing the liner of the bag facing the liner of the flap. And then when we keep going, then you have the printed side of the bag facing the printed side of the liner, of the flap. So both of these match. And what we're going to do is I am going to sew this whole top ridge on this one side, and I'm only going to sew an inch on the other side. I'm only going to sew an inch in from each side, an inch from each side. Then I'm going to flip the whole thing out, and that will be, the liner will be out and everything will be out, and then I'll stick the liner back inside correct way, and I will top stitch that area where we flipped everything out. And I'm thinking about how I'm going to do my final magnet, and I think I'll put that in before I do this enclosure and flip it inside out. Let me just get the next step done, and I'll show you then what I'm trying to attempt to do here. I forgot to cover getting your snaps put in at this point also. So I've already got my liner inside, I've already got the flap down inside, but right there at the back of your bag is where you want to take your snap, raw edges up. That is going to go into the back side of your bag. So this is my front side over here, with the print side and the flap in it. And then the other side without the flap in it is where I'm going to place the first of my snaps, right at the back of the seam. So you can see I'm putting it over here. And here, this part here is the front flap. This is the back. So I've faced it down, raw edges up, and I'm going to clip that into place right there. So I've got that clipped. The next thing I'm going to clip is the flap, and I'm also going to bring up the outside of the bag, line these all up seam to seam, that seam that we had, and on my flap I've got to get this all right against that seam there. That lined up. There you can see, I think you can see, here's my print side, here is the flap face to face with the print, and there's the liner, but this is all going to go together. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the fabrics there, and then I clip that. I'm going to clip that down. I'm going to do that all the way along here and clip it all along, making sure that all the top raw edges are even. You have to go along inch by inch and clip that so it all stays together. And where all these layers are, it'll be more evident when we get this all done. I'll stop this and show you when I get it done. I got okay to finish this up. This is what it looks like. And I'm just doing all of this one side. And this has got the flap and the other two pieces and the snaps on the tabs. And it really ended up, when I was trying to get this perfectly aligned, that the snaps are kind of like in the middle of the seam. So you want to play with it to see how much you've hemmed it or whatever, and how this is all going to fit clear across here accurately from side to side, so that your snaps are going to be down inside the bag right at the seams. There's a little bit on the front, a little bit on the back, and then making sure that that flap is even, so it's not too much on one side or the other. You'll know what I mean when you're putting this together, is you want that flap fairly loose so they can come easily out and over. You don't want any big gathering on one side and less on the other. So I evened that out so each side has exactly the same amount of a gap, and then that gap I put the two snaps for the snap-on bag, one on each side. So they're all inside here now, and I'm going to sew this area. And like I said, I will only do like a ½ an inch or an inch in on each side here, because we want to turn all this inside out. Okay, I'll do that next. Okay, I'm going to be turning this all out. It means taking all the bags and turning it all out. The big reveal. And here's what it looks like right now. It's all turned out. Then we want to take the lining and we're going to stuff it back inside the bag. So you have to take all of it and undo, unfold and turn it back inside of the bag so that your lining is inside. All this lining is inside. And so this is what it's going to look like right now. We have that opening that we left. That's why we were doing all the flipping. That's your front of the bag. This is where this is going to come down. We've got this part here, of course, that we still have to make a notch to see where we're going to have that other side of the magnetic. But then we also have both of our little snaps are right there on the side. So all I have to do now is I'm going to iron this up a bit. And before I seal it in, I'm going to figure out where exactly I want to put the other part of that magnetic snap on this part here. And that I want hidden inside, so I'm not going to finish this yet. I have to figure out where it's going to go. I'll get that done, and we're almost done. Just be right back. So I made a little mark on the front here, and that's where I put this first spacer thing. Let me show what these spacers look like. This comes with the kit. You get the 2 magnets, and you can get, they've got a whole bag of these spacers, so I'm assuming you can use that like 2 or 1, whatever you feel like your fabric can handle. I put 1 on the top of it, and I put 1 on the bottom, and you can see that I've got the holes. I made the holes by just using my a little seam ripper, and you just make a little hole big enough for these to go through the fabric. You can see it here and here. And then I will use my tool over here, one of my tools, to bend these over and pound it down flat. I'm just using my scissors, but I do have other tools up there. I have some pliers and stuff you could use, but my scissors are working fine. on there you can see. And I did give it a little extra. I didn't pull, when I made it where I wanted to go, I didn't pull my flap like really tight down on the bag, because then you want to be able to get stuff in there. So I tried to give it a little extra room and just did it a little bit. And there it goes. It just snaps right on there. Now, the next thing I have to do though, now that we got that inside where it's not going to be seen, see, you don't even see it on the lining part because it's down inside just the front part. So it's going to be completely unseen. You don't see that back side at all. I'm going to hem this, and what I do is I'm going to iron this down a little bit, that gap that we have. I'll iron it so that it's a hem, you know, you fold in you just pull your fingers here and then this kind of folds in. I'm going to iron it and then I'll top stitch that. Okay, we have finished the bag. It didn't take long at all. We've got the little snaps here on the sides. We've got the cute little design, which has a magnetic clasp in your liner. You can hear it snapping. And these, like I said, can go on your jeans. See if I can show you. These little belt tabs, you can snap it to one each side. And this day you want to make sure everything's secure on if you're carrying a purse or whatever. But also you could put this on your backpack. You could put it on you could snap it onto your cart if you're shopping. And they're easy to make. And I have a large variety of designs in the snap-on bag. And if there's any design I have on my shop on Spoonflower and you don't see it on this bag and you would really, really like that, you can write me. And when I get the time, I'll be glad to do that. On any of my designs, I can put them on a bag on a fat quarter. And so one fat quarter gives you one complete bag. And there's also, this video will be up on my blog, as well as there's pictures and just the written instructions on my blog. And for each pattern, like this is the snap-on the snap-on bag. So on the blog, you'll see a pull-down menu, and that has everything that I make. So snap-on bag, whether it's this design or some other, they're all going to be made the same. And I do show you variations. So if you want to try something different, like I said, you can change, you know, the liner to the outside if you want to. You can put I show one where you can put a little stretchy elastic right here, loop, and then put a button down here, or you can put the button here and just Velcro on the other side. So there's lots of options and things you can design, and whatever you can be creative with. You could add some lace, you can put some special ribbon or things on some of the bags. But there's the crossbody dog walking bag, which also works as just a walking bag. On the dog walking bag, it has a big grommet, so you can put your dog bags in there. And then I have gift bags, and I have a little teeny backpack, and I have regular, just little bags like this, only they'll be with zippers. So check them out. It's all under the Do-It-Yourself Cut and Sew on my Salzano's Spoonflower account. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day and be creative. Come up with new designs. Don't be afraid to try things new. I am not a professional sewer. I am a professor art. I do the art. I don't do this sewing all the time. I do this sewing now because I need to make my patterns to show people that how they work and that they are pretty easy to do. The majority of them are intermediate. There's some for advanced, and if it's for a beginner, I will always tell you that in the description that it's for a beginner. If it doesn't say it's for a beginner, then it does take someone who already has some knowledge of sewing and knows how to use their sewing machine and do basic things like zippers and stuff. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.